In a time when the planet's ecosystems are in disarray, now more than ever do we need to become educated and aware of the damage pollution is doing to our waterways. Examples of this include wastewater, which may be discharged either legally or illegally by a manufacturer. This type of pollution can be regulated by the EPA, as they can establish limits to what can be discharged directly into a body of water. Non-point source pollution is harder to identify and comes from many places, all at once. For example, agricultural and stormwater runoff into lakes or rivers. Non-point source pollution is the leading cause of water pollution in the U.S. and is harder to regulate as there is no clear point of pollution. While there are many types of pollution, the three major water pollutants include pesticides or fertilizers, waste from livestock, and oil spills. The federal government has put into place several laws and regulations to help keep the environment safe. For our water, two very prominent acts are the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Clean Water Act. The Safe Drinking Water Act was originally passed in 1974 and was amended twice, both in 1986 and 1996. The Act serves to protect and regulate the country's drinking water and the sources it comes from. This includes rivers, lakes, groundwater supplies, springs, and reservoirs. The Act authorizes the EPA to set health standards for the water to protect against natural and man-made contaminants. The Clean Water Act was passed in 1972 and was amended several times. It serves to regulate the discharge of pollutants into the nation's surface waters, including rivers, lakes, streams, wetlands, and coastal areas. Unless a person or group has a permit to discharge waste, the Clean Water Act makes it illegal for them to do so in surface waters.
To reduce the amount of pesticides in water, the U.S. Geological Survey has developed two new water quality analytical methods for the determination of chloroacetanilide herbicide degrades in water. These methods use solid phase extraction and high-performance liquid chromatography. Oil can come from natural seeps, oil spills, and also runoff from land, but total volumes are difficult to estimate. Most oil pollution results from accident and/or carelessness. Fuel oil primarily enters the water during refueling, but oil can also escape during vessel operations. Oil from recreational boats typically comes from dirty ballast water, oil tank washings, bilge water, slops, sludges, fuel residues, and waste oil. Steps boaters can take to prevent oil spills include not overfilling fuel tanks and recycling used oil and filters. Animal waste, if not properly managed, can be transported over the surface of agricultural land to nearby lakes and streams. Good management practices for small open feedlots and winter feeding areas can minimize the potential for non-point source pollution. The key factor in controlling non-point pollution is controlling runoff and leaching. Many of the standard practices for erosion and sediment control will reduce losses of animal waste pollutants to surface water systems.
Pesticides and fertilizers can be used for agricultural purposes and are classified as groundwater contamination. Farmers spray these pesticides on crops, and the pesticides can flow below the surface of the ground, contaminating groundwater. This adds unnatural chemicals into our groundwater, which can be hard to filter out. Oil spills mostly come from accidents that occur involving pipelines and barges in or near the ocean. The oil leads to deaths in marine life and greatly negatively affects the ecosystem surrounding that contaminated water. The Gulf of Mexico oil spill in 2010 was the largest marine oil spill in history, caused by an explosion on an oil rig, killing and harming many animals. Livestock waste, for example, is humans dumping animal waste into rivers instead of properly disposing of them. This can cause both surface and groundwater pollution, as well as carrying dangerous diseases from the animal's waste that can affect people.